You know, life has this amazing trick, making copies of itself completely on its own. No partner needed. Today, we're going to dive into the incredible, super efficient world of asexual reproduction. Seriously, how can life create more life all by itself? It almost sounds like sci-fi, right? The idea that one single organism can just, poof, create a whole new generation. But guess what? It's happening all around us all the time. And some of the most successful creatures on Earth do it. So, what are we really talking about here? Well, asexual reproduction is basically nature's way of cloning. The new generation is a genetic carbon copy of the single parent, and life has developed this whole toolbox of amazing ways to do it. Today, we're going to look at 3 of the coolest strategies, starting with a true master of survival. All right, let's get into our first case, survival through spores, featuring the one and only Rhizopus. You've probably seen this master of survival on a forgotten loaf of bread. We're jumping into the world of fungi to see how they use these tiny, tough little packages to get everywhere. So meet Rhizopus, the common bread mold. Now, when things are good, this stuff spreads like wildfire, but its real superpower, that comes out when times get tough. Instead of just growing, it creates thousands, and I mean thousands, of these little survival pods we call spores. Each one is a tiny little package ready to start a whole new colony. Okay, so how does it work? It's actually a pretty elegant process. First, the mold forms this little protective case called a sporangium. Think of it like a little incubator. Inside, thousands of tiny spores start to develop. And then, bam, the case bursts open, releasing this cloud of spores to drift off and find a new home. So, what makes spores so darn successful? Well, first off, they have these thick, protective walls. This means they can survive pretty much anything. Crazy heat, freezing cold, you name it. They're also super lightweight, so the wind can carry them for miles and miles. And finally, it's just a numbers game. When you produce that many, you can be sure at least a few will find the perfect spot to grow. It's an absolutely brilliant strategy for survival. Okay, so we've seen this spread 'em far and wide strategy with spores. Now let's switch gears to a much more direct way of making a copy. We're moving on to budding, and for this, we're going to check out an amazing little creature called Hydra. And here it is. This little guy is Hydra. Now, Hydra doesn't play the lottery by sending its kids off on the wind. Nope, its strategy is way more personal. It literally grows a miniature version of itself, a perfect little clone directly on its body. And you can see the whole process right here. It all kicks off when some special cells, these regenerative cells, start dividing like crazy in one spot. This forms a little outgrowth, or a bud. That bud keeps growing, developing its own tiny tentacles and a mouth, until it's a fully formed mini-me. Then it just pops off and starts its own independent life. How cool is that? All right, our next strategy is something straight out of a comic book. I'm talking about the power to regenerate. This is where things get really wild. Let's look at the case of planaria. Okay, check this out. This is planaria, a flatworm with an absolutely mind-blowing superpower. If you cut this worm into pieces, you don't kill it. You actually multiply it. Every single piece can grow back into a brand new, complete worm. It's incredible. And for planaria, this isn't just a healing trick, it's one of its main ways of making more planaria. This quote here really says it all. From one piece, a new whole is born. It perfectly sums it up. We're not just talking about patching up an injury. For this creature, breaking apart and regrowing is a core reproductive strategy. It's how it makes a new generation. So this brings up a really interesting point. We've seen that Hydra can bud, and planaria can regenerate. But Hydra can also regenerate if it gets hurt. So what's the difference? Let's break down their strategies side by side. This table makes it super clear. Look at Hydra. Its primary method is budding. That's its normal, everyday way of reproducing. Regeneration, that's more of a backup plan, an emergency power it uses if it gets injured. But for planaria, regeneration is the main event. It's the standard, go-to method for reproduction. So the key takeaway here is all about purpose. Think of it like this. For Hydra, budding is the normal routine, and regeneration is an extraordinary ability. For planaria, regeneration is the normal routine. It's a small difference in words, but a huge difference in life strategy. So, we've seen all these amazing ways life can make clones of itself, and it's super efficient, especially when everything's stable.
But it does leave us with a big, important question, right? In a world that's always changing, is making perfect copies the best long-term plan? Or is having that genetic variety the real key to survival? That's a question that really gets to the very heart of evolution. So what do you think? Anyway, if you found this insightful and it helps you understand the science of asexual reproduction a little better, do me a favor and hit that like and share button. Thanks so much for joining me.